the majority of this timeline of Clear Mortgage has been just going through and finding the top players to keep around you to build a great organization.
Hey, welcome back to Loan Officer Growth, the podcast that helps loan officers grow their business, have more success, and more freedom. We are in for a special treat today. We have Adriana Bates in the house. She's broker owner and loan officer at Clear Mortgage. She's in Kansas City, and I consider you a dear friend. Adriana, how long have we known each other?
I think it's going on 9 years now, Richard, isn't it? I always know the timeline with Freedom Club because I had just had my second child. Do you remember that when we had first met in Kansas City? And my middle child, Sawyer, is now 8. So yeah, it's been 8 years.
That's so crazy.
I know. Well, thank you for having me. I hope the listeners believe that it's a treat. I think it's going to be a treat having me on, but
yeah,
let
I
them
do too.
This.
So why don't we just go right down to tell us how you started in the business, and you're very successful at what you do. I'd love to hear your story on that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity again. So I think like most people in our industry, I never had any intentions of getting into mortgage per se. I graduated with my master's in 2008, 2009-ish. So the economy wasn't the best. And this is right after the crash had just happened. And I had a very difficult time landing a job. So in networking and just meeting people, I had met a owner of a mortgage company. He said, you're smart, you're aggressive. Until you figure out what it is you truly want to do, I think you'll be great at this. So why don't you give it a try? And I started from the very bottom. He's like, I'm not going to play favorites here. I know you'll be great, but you're starting as a shipper. This is back in the day when files had to be copied and stacked, in an organized manner and then sent off to the investor. And my personality type, for those that know me and for those that don't, is if anyone uses the disc, it's all D, all I, very little S and C, which was difficult for a shipper because S and C is very important. Anyways, my point is I was trying to get through those files as fast as I could. I was competitive with myself. Moved on up from shipper to post closer to underwriter for a hot second. That was a disaster, but it was fun. Wow. And then processing manager, and then worked into the sales, which, I didn't enjoy a lot of the operational pieces of the business, but it was amazing for the knowledge that I gained and just understanding why the back end was so important. I think it made me such a strong originator in understanding the other pieces of the business. So that was, going on 16 years ago.
Wow.
Time. So bounced around from different, retail shops, went to a bank at one point. I think I was working in a bank when I had met you guys at the Freedom Club, and then eventually felt as though I hit a couple of glass ceilings and was like, you know what, I want to do this on my own. So we started Clear Mortgage.
That was how long? That's only been a couple of years, right?
5 years.
It's been 5 years. Oh my gosh.
I think going on 6 years, actually. Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow. So so you built Clear Mortgage from ground up, right?
From ground up.
What were the biggest, I hate to say obstacles, but what did you go through to build that? Because you've built a really great company.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we've had our growing pains. I think the most difficult piece is, I'm still originating. And when you're originating and building a company, it's difficult to wear hats. So I think like any business, you have to surround yourself with really strong and good people. And the majority of this timeline of Clear Mortgage has been just going through and finding the top players to keep around you to build a great organization. And a lot of that has to do with my husband. He helps quite a bit. I trust him. I know that, and he does a ton of the back end, which I'm not the best at. A lot of the auditing, compliance, QC, everything on that piece, HR, payroll, he handles, and a lot of the relationships with the lenders, which requires paperwork, so that I can still focus on originating and leading our sales staff. So I think the the hardest thing for me in the beginning was really defining where I wanted to live and breathe in the business, right? Which has always been sales, but and also finding really strong teammates to pick up the other side of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you surround yourself with people that are really good at the things that
I try
may
to.
not be your strengths,
Yeah,
right?
I try to, but I think every business owner understands that finding and retaining people is probably the most difficult piece of our business.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still learning with that and still growing on that. And I think that's probably been the leadership piece has probably been the most growth that I've seen, in my career, which has been interesting when you self-reflect,
So you still keep, so let me ask you this. You come in, it's Monday morning. What does your
Mhm.
day look like?
Well, I totally went against what I have told myself I'm doing for you, Richard. So I normally don't like to schedule any meetings before 10 a.m. I've developed a very strong morning routine that really helps me feel grounded, feel centered, and to have time to bond with my kids before. I have three boys, 10, 8, and 5. And the mornings are really sacred to us because I feel like it sets the tone for the day. If we start the day in chaos, then the whole day is going to be chaos. So
Right.
I've really tried to um, push my meetings, unless it's very important, to after 10 a.m. And that's just so that we can really maintain our morning routines. Monday morning, I would be in the office. I have my list of calls that I'll be making, check-ins that I'll be doing. We like to, as an organization, touch our pals on Monday to see how the weekend went. The market is not great in Kansas City. The inventory is still really, really, really low. So it's frustrating over the weekends. And we try to maintain that motivation. So it's very important for us to touch our partners and touch our pre-approved and lookings on Monday. So we really
Mm,
stay focused on that. So Monday, I'd be making calls through the first part of the meeting or for the first part of the day, usually till about 11, because they always go over as much as you want to say you're very strict about your time blocking. For me, it's about relationships. And if I feel that conversations are going really well, or I feel just kind of in that energy to have a lot more conversations, I continue. And then I try to have at least 2 meetings a day, whether that's with a referral partner, with a past client that sends a lot of business, with an employee. I used to stack my meetings much more close and heavy. I would heavy stack my days, and I realized that it was really taking away from the authenticity that I was having in those meetings, because I was on to the next, and that was very much my personality in the past. And now I'm trying to really, cultivate it. Less meetings, less relationships, and really try to go more meaningful and surround myself with people that I actually enjoy being around.
yeah, that makes so much sense. So you're going really deep with the relationships that you have.
Yeah, I'm trying to. The market's not great right now, so there is a lot of shallow as well. Don't love that, but
Right.
you kind of have to do what you have to do to keep your numbers up, and that's a skill that I learned very, very early in my career, that I can go shallow fast. I'm not proud of it, but I can get numbers in and get business in. Do I enjoy it? Do I enjoy working with them? Do I like their personalities? No. So I guess the quality of life isn't always great when you have a multitude of relationships that aren't meaningful to you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. How do you how do you stay consistent?
It's work, it's ebb and flow, but I really try to listen to my this sounds so cliche, but I'm learning it as I get older too. Really listen to my body and what my body needs. So if I if I'm not enjoying something and I don't like it, I don't do it anymore. So things that I really hated doing were a lot of my, like initial calls. I love getting to know the client. I love getting to know their story, but I don't like taking them through a loan estimate. I don't enjoy walking them through pieces of, teaching them about every piece of home ownership. So I really have leaned on LOAs and my support staff to do that. So it's taken a long time in my career to figure out what I truly enjoy with it, because I enjoy making money. But
Right.
to be really happy, I just keep my day consistent with those things. And usually I am pretty on point.
So you
But if I
have,
need a day off and I need to clear my schedule, I need a self-care day, I do it. And I have a really strong executive assistant, Julianne, that can do it in a heartbeat. She can clear my schedule and I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm going to, get a massage or go get my kids early and then make every practice. And I've just been more aware of that and when I need it. And I rewarded myself with that.
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, again, it's back to surrounding yourself with really, really strong people that can handle things. So you do,
Yeah,
you,
it's taken my entire career to find them, and
yeah,
the bigger struggle isn't finding them. The bigger struggle is keeping them, especially the ones that need, you know, that kind of structure and the step ladder to see how their career grows with yours. I think that's been some of the most difficult education that I've had to give myself is just that leadership capability.
so your business is most of your business from real estate relationships or realtor relationships, past
Yeah.
clients?
I just ran those numbers. 86% is from either real estate relationships, referral based. It's what I would call referral based. So I
Okay.
would lump in past clients into that as well. And the other, it was like 13.5 or something like that. The other 14% is coming from some of the SEO work that we're doing. A lot of people know that I'm very heavy on social media. I'm very present. And I do think that that's a long game. That's not an instant, that's where your business is going to be coming from. But for the last 5 years, we've pumped in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money into building out our brand and building out our socials. And it's finally starting to pay benefit.
That's awesome. Is that you were mentioning to me before we started recording about a little side project you're doing?
Yeah.
What's something you're
Yeah.
working on that
So Stack
excites you?
is a SaaS, which is a software as a service company that I've been working on for the last 2.5 years, and is all stemming from the mortgage company. Originally, it was a selfish platform that I was building because the hardest part of the business, when the business was very, very strong, when the market was amazing, and we had more business than we knew what to deal with, was onboarding and training very quickly. So what Stack was built as was a training platform for loan officers to go through and learn some of the really detailed work of our industry that they would either learn by following around a top producer, following around, a mentor. And Stack was built to kind of take them through the process of learning to become a loan officer with real life client scenarios that we would use from a day-to-day basis that we would learn from our, mortgage business. So the last one that we just built for a client scenario was one that the client just recently was divorced. And we went through the divorce decree, and they were going to be awarded $1,000 a month in child support. Well, a loan officer used that $1,000 as child support. They've received it once without realizing that they needed 6 months payments prior to counting it as income. That's a lesson that most loan officers don't learn until they jack it up, right? And that's horrible for the loan officer. That's horrible for your company. That's horrible for the relationships that they're building. So in hopes, Stack is a training and sales management platform that will allow all service-based industries. So originally I was just building it for mortgage. What I realized, Richard, it's not just mortgage that needs strong sales training. It's every industry. So the next platform or the next vertical that we're building is Stack for solar. So solar companies are growing very, very rapidly. And the same thing, when they're onboarding their sales reps, it's very difficult to slow down either the owner of the company or their top salespeople. So what you can liken it to is a pre-built trainual with some accountability metrics. So for example, like a manager can pop in, see a screen, see all their loan officers, see all their salespeople, and know exactly what they did today because they are fulfilling their KPIs in Stack.
I love
Without
that.
building out a CRM. It has API to CRMs, but that's one of the most difficult things with CRMs is building out your KPI and your tracking mechanisms.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because you have to track.
You do. You do. If you don't know who's winning on your scorecard, how do you know if you won the game?
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. I've been putting a lot of energy into it. I finally will have a MVP coming up here this month, which is a minimum viable product. And I've got a couple of buddies that are going to be beta testing it just so we can see how it works and work out some of those bugs, but then hopefully be taking it to market, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah. It's
What's
been
the
a long
end?
project.
What's your goal? What's your end game goal?
With Stack,
Yeah.
use it for a long time, probably use it as a recruiting tool for mortgage companies, because the biggest thing is when you're recruiting to mortgage companies, and there'll be a time when people are flooding back to our industry, we all know it. I want Stack to be so well oiled that the training and retention, and even in the platform, one of the coolest things is a manager can make competitions within their organization. So for example, if you set a meeting with a real estate agent in our industry, it's worth X amount of points. If you make your calls to your database, those are worth different amounts of points. If a real estate agent actually shows up to a meeting, those are worth higher points, So there's metrics to your KPIs, and you can create game. Like, the gamification is becoming a very trendy thing in our society. So the gamification of sales is going to be something that I really want to capitalize on, and one of the biggest features that I built out in Stack.
That's
So my
awesome.
point is, I want to use it to grow Clear, obviously, and without Clear, I wouldn't have more content to keep building onto Stack, and then hopefully grow verticals into other industries and just grow it until I have hundreds of thousands of users.
Yeah, that is gamifying is big time. Like, it is so cool because it just gives the competition. Like, I know we all, like, as a loan officer, our biggest competition is ourself, right? We always hear that cliche. But when we get to be competitive against our peers, it just kind of puts everybody up a notch, I think.
I also think transparency and accountability is a big piece that's lacking in our industry. I think it's very easy to say when you onboard a new loan officer, this is what I expect of you, but it's very difficult to manage that on a day-to-day basis. And
Right.
as broker owners or as sales managers in our industry, our biggest commodity that we have is our time. And if we're pouring our time into loan officers that aren't putting in the work on a day-to-day basis, we don't realize that much until it's too late. You're 3 months in, you give them a base for a while, and then you realize that they don't have the tenacity to make it in our industry, and you've lost money, you've lost your time. So I think with a platform, and I firmly believe that Stack will provide some of that accountability and visibility so that you can recognize who are going to be your star players much, much quicker, and not just remove time for the ones that aren't going to be successful, but pour into the ones that are. How awesome would it be
Right.
if you saw your 15 loan officers on a screen, and Danny up here has been killing it for 5 days in a row, and he's got a little trophy by him because he's doing all the activities, doesn't need you, isn't calling you. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that he was doing so well unless you had some sort of accountability mechanism. So making that call on Friday and saying, you know what, Danny, you killed it this week. The effort that you're putting in now is going to pay itself tenfold in the next 3 months. So keep it going. I firmly believe that as salespeople in our industry, one of the traits that we lack the most is knowing when to give compliments that are sincere and giving those pats on the back for those activities. We're really good at faking it. We're really good at saying, like, hey, thanks for showing up today. Thanks for
Right.
sitting at your desk. But really firmly saying you did a great job today is difficult for us.
Yeah, that's so true.
Unless they're bringing in apps, bringing in closed loans. But we know that ramp up period for our loan officers is so long in some cases.
Yeah, and we need to know what they're doing day to day, or they need to know because
They need to know.
yeah,
They need to be reminded of what our minimum expectations are. It makes them successful. It's a successful relationship for us to say it one time, and then they get to see it every day, what our minimum expectation is for them today. And it makes it very easy to let someone go. When you say, you know what, I'm looking at this report, and for the last 3 weeks, you did not do what was minimally expected of you at all. So I'm sorry, but I don't want to stand in the way of what your true calling is out there in the world.
right.
You can be free.
And it saves you and that person a lot of time and headache and heartache.
Yeah. And it's not a emotional decision any longer. It's
Right.
very logical. Like, did you do what was expected of you? No, sorry.
Right.
That was
Interesting.
also a selfish thing for me because I'm great at setting expectations. I'm not the best at managing those expectations in a nice way.
Okay.
I was very
How
reactionary.
how do you manage that within yourself? Like you're very consistent and you've always been successful. And what do you do to keep yourself consistent in a positive way?
I just know what my why is very clearly and what I want out of life, and I know how to achieve it. So I know if I do, it's just like atomic habits. If I do the little things that I need to
Right.
do every day, I will build the life that I want. And what I'm coming to realize is I've already built it. I just have to choose to be present in it. And that's what's most exciting for me is that I know the life that I want and I'll work really, really hard to get it, no matter what is put in front of me.
Right. You're very driven. So let's say you wake up and you're like, I just don't feel it today. What do you do?
I don't do it.
Okay.
If I know, and you guys know, if you're bullshitting yourself, right? Like if you know you're sick or you're the only thing that's going to keep me from not doing something. And even when I'm sick, I still do it.
Right.
I think it's got to be something like if I need a mental health day, if I need, or if my children need me, I have the team around me that'll clear my schedule. It'll still get done. I just don't, it won't be me that's doing it. And as much
Well,
as we want to say that people can do it 80%, 75%, there's something different about the owner of the company making those calls and doing the
right.
check-in.
Oh
So
yeah. Lead by example. You do that very well. We're running out of time, but I still have a couple questions.
sure.
What's a routine or habit that has made a big, big difference in you?
Getting my physical exercise out of the way very early in the morning has made the
Hmm.
difference because I found if I do give myself the option to do it later in the day, it never happens, especially with kids' schedules and things like that. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I journal. I hate journaling. I don't like it yet. It's not something that I do well, and I've never enjoyed it. Meditating is something that I'm learning to do. I've always been learning to do it because I think I have that same mind that a lot of us have that's constantly going. So it's really difficult to embrace the still. I think the physical exercise has been a great one. And then really putting some boundaries around my mornings has been something else that's been really made a difference for a routine. Just they're sacred to us. And you know, I don't want to lose on that.
Yeah, that makes
I was
sense.
late today. Sorry, I had to take those kids into school because we have a routine and
Yep.
we do our self affirmations, we do our talk, we talk about what's going to make us 1% better every day, and that's something that I'm trying to put into my kids as well. Do something that makes you 1% better every day.
Love it. Love it. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
What
Anything, Richard.
Last question. What words of encouragement do you have for loan officers in this current times we're in? I mean, we all know it's a little bit tougher right now than it's been in the past.
Just make it through it. You got to grind through it. Do what you need to do. Go back to the basics. Let go of staff when you know you need to let go. Lean out. Lean out right now is the biggest thing, and keep your A players. Honestly, leaning out has been the best thing for us because it's helped us really identify the A players so much clearer,
Yeah.
and how much more efficient you can be with great talent and get your database in order in your downtime and make sure you have a really strong CRM because when times get good, they're going to get good real fast and you better be organized.
Yes. Great words of wisdom. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on today.
Uh, Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the episode and they can follow me on Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram, TikTok, on Facebook, YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's at Adriana Bates. And then check out Stack, get stacked online. It would be really cool
Love
to
it.
have people check it out and give me some feedback on that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you again. And I appreciate you.
No problem, Richard. Good catching up with you. Bye.